Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
All right. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to the Select Committee to inquire into the background and reasons for the delay of the construction of the Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link. And the witnesses today are the same as last time. We have the Highways Department Director, Mr. Pt1, and the Select Committee has agreed to the request by Mr. Lau that he can be accompanied by some other persons, and the accompanying persons to Mr. Lau are Mr. Henry Chen, RDO's Principal Government Engineer, Railways, Mr. Hui Hon Choi, and Legal Advisor and Mr. Clement Lin from the Legal Advisory Division of the Department. And I'd like to remind all of you that all the witnesses, all the accompanying persons are not supposed to speak to the Select Committee. I'd also like to remind the witness that as the Select Committee has not been authorized by the Council to exercise the powers under Section 9(1) of the Electrical Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 382, the witness will not be protected by the privileges of witnesses under Cap 382 in the process of interrogation according to Section 18 of Cap 382 with regard to the questions raised by Select Committee members. If the witness deliberately provides a false reply or to supply false, untrue, fabricated or falsified documents to the Select Committee, then that would be a deliberate attempt to deceive the Select Committee, and it would be an offense. But I believe that the witness would act in good faith in assisting the work of the Select Committee. The Select Committee has formulated its own work practices and procedures. I'd like to draw members to the following points. First, Cap 382 would only apply to the process of the hearing, and therefore all members, including non-Select Committee members, should refrain from expressing their views outside of the hearing. Moreover, I'd also like to remind those in the public gallery, including both members of the public and the media, if they disclose evidence disclosed at the hearing, they would not be covered by the protections under Cap 382. Therefore, if necessary, members of the public and the media should seek legal advice with regard to their legal liabilities. And in the subsequent procedures, I'll be asking the witness to confirm the documents that he's going to adduce to the hearing. And the committees will also be included as part of the evidence of the Select Committee. And also, the Select Committee has also decided that all documents that can be disclosed would also be uploaded onto the webpage of the Council, and that would be for public inspection. I declare the hearing open, and a document has been supplied by the Highways Department to the Secretariat, so that's paper number G7. So are you going to adduce this document as your evidence to the Select Committee? Yes. All right. Mr. Lau has requested that he'll be given 5 minutes to make an opening statement. So the floor is now open to you. Thank you, Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to supplement on what I said last time. Well, in attending the hearing last time, individual members have put questions to me, and as I did not have enough time, I did not manage to give a very detailed reply. So I'd like to provide some supplementary details here. First of all, Mr. Frankie Yig asked that in the process of monitoring the performance of the MTRCL by the Highways Department, did we detect any problems with regard to its internal mechanisms? At the time, I said that the M&V consultant of the Highways Department did not detect any evidence that the MTRCL was not able to meet the established mechanism. I'd like to supplement that the M&V consultant of the Highways Department has adopted a risk-based approach and would just sample the higher risk projects in conducting its monitoring and verification work, and therefore there was no comprehensive supervision of the internal mechanism of the MTRCL. So even though the M&V consultant did not detect evidence showing that the MTLCL was not able to meet the established mechanism, it does not mean that the MTLCL does not have any internal problems. With regard to the delay of the XRL, the Highways Department would continue to act in accordance with the entrustment mechanism in assessing the progress of the works by the MTLCL, and would also reserve all rights to go after the MTLCL for cost overrun and all the other aspects. Secondly, Mr. Chen Kam-lim also asked that with regard to the problems detected by the Highways Department, whether or not there was a need for the MTLCL to carry out the works as proposed by the Highways Department. In fact, I'd like to supplement on that. As the check by the Highways Department, we have the responsibility to instruct the MTLCL to act in accordance with the responsibilities under the entrustment agreement in order to make its best endeavor in implementing the Hong Kong section of the XRL project. Once we detected that there were problems, then we would be making such comments to the MTLCL in a timely manner and urge the MTLCL to discharge its duty as the entrustee to make improvements and also follow up on the problems. The MTLCL has the responsibility of implementing the Hong Kong section of the XRL. Even if the Highways Department has raised comments or queries, it would not, nor would it be appropriate for the Highways Department to give instruction to the MTLCL as to how it should do its job, nor would the Highways Department be making suggestions to the contractors as to how they should implement the works. Finally, Mr. Michael Tian also asked a question about project number 810A about the excavation of rocks at the West Kowloon terminus. As I've already explained, in the first report of the independent board committee, some 600 drill holes were obtained in the West Kowloon terminus. At the time, we were already aware of the fact that there were a large number of rocks that had to be excavated towards the northern end of the WKT. According to the analysis by the Highways Department, the actual number might not have been very different from the original estimate. However, it would take time to do the work, and it could only be carried out after the excavation of B3, and therefore the plan by the contractor to shorten the process by recovering some of the delays might be affected. According to data, the rock stratum of the northern end of the WKT were like two mountains, and it would look like a U-shaped valley if you look at the cross-section of the rock strata. Even though the MTLCL started the excavation and blasting in early 2014, however, the actual excavation will have to wait until after the completion of B3 before a comprehensive process can start. As we all know, the support beam for B3 was completed in March 2015. That's why they are now starting with the comprehensive excavation, and after the stratum is exposed, they would then be able to resort to blasting in order to remove the rocks. I'll try my best to answer all the questions. Thank you. Are you going to adduce your supplementary opening statement to the Select Committee as part of your evidence? Yes. I'd like to remind all members that in accordance with the established procedures, during open hearings, members should only ask questions for the purpose of ascertaining facts relevant to and within the scope of the Select Committee's inquiry. Members should not make comments or statements during these hearings. I'll decide if certain questions are pertinent to the terms of reference of this Select Committee and whether or not they fall within the scope of our hearing. And as chairman of the Select Committee, I also have the discretion to decide whether or not a question is a follow-up question, and whether or not the member should be allowed to ask the question. And every member will be given 10 minutes, including the witness's reply. As the hearing starts now, in order to make proper use of the hearing time, I'd like to urge members to be as precise and concise as possible, and the witness reply should also be clear and specific. Now, first, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. My following questions will also focus on the witness statement by Mr. Peter Lau as the Director of Highways Department and also the Chairman of the XRL project. So he has taken up an important role in the whole XRL project. Mr. Chairman, well, the THB has a letter in reply to the Select Committee's Secretariat's questions, and the reply data was 23rd of March 2015. And it's about the roles to be played by the officials involved in the project. And there is an annex to this letter, including the THB, the Permanent Secretary, and all the way up to the Director for Highways. So with regard to the Director for Highways, I'd like to read that out. So there are several points, but then there are 3 points that I'm more concerned about. That's about the formulating policies and program plans for the planning and implementation of highways and rail projects, including the XRL project, and for the maintenance of the highway network. Dr. Low Kwok, you refer to the paper, and that's in G6. Yes. Yes, in G6. Providing steering, planning, designing, and implementing PWP highway and rail projects, including the XRL project, and ensuring project completion on time, within budget, and to high standards. And another point which is more relevant, and I'm most concerned about this, that is chairing the XRL monthly project supervision committee meetings. So, Director, can you confirm the following on the wording? Ensuring project completion on time, within budget, and to high standards. So how do we understand this term, ensuring? Because just now, in your supplementary statement, you mentioned in para 6 that as a checker of the checker, you talk about your work. So as a checker of checker, will you be able to ensure that the project can be completed on time, within budget, and to high standards? In other words, Chairman, during our meetings, we can see that in terms of the whole arrangement between the government and the MTRCL, this is a very special form of cooperation, and could it be that because of this, the Director, in terms of your role, to what extent are you able to discharge your duties? So is there any gap between the actual work that you can do and our expectation? So can you first answer the question before I ask further follow-ups?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Le, for your question. In my statement, actually, in the last hearing, I mentioned this too, that the XRL project adopts a concession model, service concession model in terms of operation. Dr. Low is concerned about my role. How do I ensure? Well, the most important thing is to have an appropriate mechanism in place so that we can monitor the project. And in the course of monitoring the project, we are doing our best in accordance with the established mechanism. This are most important. In my statement, I've said that there are multi-tiered monitoring mechanism. Apart from the PSC, there are 2 other levels of monitoring to help us to keep updated on the overall progress of works. If there are delays identified, we would urge the MTRCL to, in accordance with the duties outlined in the entrustment agreement to come up with delay recovery measures, DRMs. In implementing the monitoring mechanism, I think we are doing a proper job. In the course, we've did identify delays, and we've urged the MTRCL to recover the delays. In addition, when we find that MTRCL raised DRMs, we would, within the established mechanism, assess the effectiveness of such DRMs and also raise our views to help MTRCL to implement such measures. With regard to coordination, we are also working on that front, which is outlined in my statement. When we know that the MTRC must make changes which entail the assistance of other government departments, we would be coordinating with these departments to ensure that the different parties can work together towards a common plan so that the project can be implemented smoothly. We are making use of this mechanism and through our monitoring work, we will ensure that the project is completed on time within budget. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, the director's explanation affirms one point. Well, it says that he should ensure project completion. I think this is somehow different from the fact that a project may fall under the direct responsibility of the Highways Department. The director repeated many times that he is playing, the department is playing the role of a monitor, doing monitoring work or checking the checker. And if you say you are just checking the checker, but then you are required to ensure, so that is difficult to achieve. Well, what you can do is to ensure that the mechanism works effectively, and that is whether the MTRCL works or cooperates fully with the Highways Department in the monitoring mechanism and provides all the information required by the Highways Department. In your statement provided to us earlier, paragraph 36, you mentioned that the project team has withheld key information from the Highways Department with regard to the progress of works. The MTRCL project team had made an assessment of the completion time and that it will be delayed to 2016. But then the project director didn't furnish that piece of information to the government. If this was a fact, then that means, well, that shows my concern is valid. And that it seems that the director would try to ensure project completion on time through his role as a monitor of the project. But if this is what happened, well, that the fact that the scenario mentioned in 36, that there are deficiencies or flaws in the monitoring mechanism, and that means that the MTRCL has not fully cooperated with you in terms of your monitoring work. In paragraph 36, it is stated clearly that we did have such concerns. This was the first report of the IBC of the MTRCL. I can confirm that this was a fact. In November 2013, the project team had made some projections, but they never notified the Highways Department. I can confirm this. We weren't informed. Well, if the chairman allows me, then I would like to pose a follow-up question. I am not talking just about the monitoring on the progress of works, but rather more on in the beginning when the objectives were drawn up. What is the director's role? What is your role in drawing up the objectives? In paragraph 6.4 of the IEP, it is stated clearly that the baseline drawn up initially were unrealistic. And they had come in with a risk. If they had done a risk assessment, it was very unlikely that the project would be completed by August 2015. And actually, in the report of the IBC of the MTRCL, similar conclusions were drawn. So in terms of the formulation of the target commissioning date, director, you are the monitor of the project. What role did you play in drawing up such a commissioning date target? From your professional judgment, is it the case that there were good considerations in coming up with initial commissioning date? And did you just rely on the assessment of the MTRCL? Did the administration do anything to help with drawing up the target? Thank you. In drawing up the target commissioning date, well, actually, that happened before I assumed my position. But I did notice some facts which I can share with you. The first one is that the work timetable is rather urgent, but in the independent expert report, well, if you look at the historical development for KCRC and MTRC in June 2007, a report or a proposal was tabled on KCRC. If works commenced in November 2009, the commissioning date could be January 2015. After detailed study, the MTRCL revised the date to June 2015. So the MTRCL proposed such a timetable after undergoing some studies. Well, to assess the reasonableness of such a timetable, the Highways Department has asked the MNV consultant to verify the commissioning date. The results showed that indeed the timetable was rather tight, but there was no little room for adjustment. But it's not the case that is not achievable. And the MNV consultant also said that during the construction stage, close monitoring had to be done, including on aspects changes in the soil conditions, logistic support, contractors' experience, etc., so as to ensure that the project could be completed on time. So in responding to Dr. Lo's question, the administration did not fully believe in what MTR said. We did some independent study to find out or ascertain that the timetable is really achievable. With regard to the construction period, we also noticed another fact. In tendering for the major civil engineering works, the tenderers had not cast any queries on the feasibility of the timetable. Say, if the tenderers found that the timetable was not feasible, they could raise their concerns in the tendering process. We didn't notice anything like that happening. No tenderers had made that sort of comments. Chairman, In the second report of the IBC, there was one other point mentioned, that the construction timetable was affected by unforeseen circumstances, and they had nothing to do with flaws in the management, and there was not enough a buffer period. If there was a sufficiently long buffer period, then the MTRCL would be able to better cope with these unforeseen circumstances. No matter how you termed it, it seems that the construction timetable was not very pragmatic. So my question was the director's role in formulating the commissioning date docket. So much for my question, and perhaps I can follow up later. I would like to follow up on Dr. Lo's question too. With regard to your MNV consultant, they mentioned once that they might be 11 months delay. And last time when you made a statement, you said that, well, everything depended on the DRMs to be proposed by the MTRCL to see whether they could catch up with the 11 months delay. Concerning the DRMs, with regard to their effectiveness, did the MNV consultant take part in studying whether the DRMs were effective? Thank you, Chairman. The MNV consultant had been participating in formulating the DRMs. As I said last time, there was a meeting or mechanism to vet the implementation of the DRMs. Before the MTRCL formulated the DRMs, they would give us some documents to outline the details of the DRMs, the relevant information, the effectiveness, and such information would be provided to the Highways Department. And the department would pass on these documents to our MNV consultant. And the MTRCL would receive comments from the Highways Department and also the MNV consultant. Ms. Claudia Mo. Thank you, Chairman. One aspect that we are very concerned about is whether the government officials are defending each other. The largest shareholder of MTRCL is the government, and now it's the government officials who are here to make an account. And we heard all the time that the government trusted the MTRCL, and the MTRCL did provide certain documents. Now we are facing such problems, and that's why we had set up this select committee. We had this document, CB2, since 2010. Every time when they held a meeting, there were mentions of delays ranging from 2 weeks to 2 months. I couldn't help but laugh too. 2 weeks to 8 weeks. So the delays could be 8 weeks, and then there were the mentionings of 3 months, 7 months, and so on.
By 2012, in particular, on page 15, that is on the 30th of March 2015, all right, the IEP said that your reporting mechanism, you repeatedly said that there was this reporting mechanism, but then because of unclear reporting, the administration had over-trusted the MTRCL's ability, and there was no justification nor assurance. In fact, there was no justification whatsoever. But then the administration trusted you. But then the government is at the same time the biggest shareholder of the MTRCL. So the way we are arguing about it, however hard you try to do it, Ms. Claudia Mo, we should not be referring to our own internal document as the basis for asking questions. So we are not supposed to disclose this document. Well, I find it regrettable then. Well, in general circumstances, I'd like to ask the following questions. Because you repeatedly said that you had mechanism in place, you had multiple layers of monitoring. But then, when did you decide that such internal information, all right, the MTRCL was aware of that, and the government was aware of that, and the government was putting pressure to bear on the MTRCL to recover the loss in time. So, when did you make a decision that you would not be able to catch up after all? So in the end, the THB, the Transport and Housing Bureau Director, when did he learn about the August 2015 completion date? Well, that was the scheduled completion and commissioning date. When did he know that it was not feasible or achievable? So can you give us a timetable? In the end, what was the biggest problem? So can you be very specific about it? That in fact there was no government trying to benefit one another. Mr. Lau, can you answer the question? Chairman, in fact, I don't quite get what Ms. Claudia Mo was driving at. All right, if you ask the Bureau Director when did he learn about this, I cannot answer on his behalf. So I can only say, according to my knowledge, I will try my best to answer your question. So can Ms. Claudia Mo repeat her question again? What was she trying to drive at? Well, she'd like to know, was it that the government had trusted the MTRCL's reporting too much, and also the promises that they made? And secondly, was there any question of the government trying to benefit your wrong? I think the questions are very clear. Chairman, well, I'd like to point out that the description that we have over-relied on the MTRCL, that's only the description by Ms. Mo, and there is no such thing in fact. And as we have made it very clear in the statement, that is, we have our own mechanism to push the MTRCL to do a number of things. Sorry, let me refer to some information first. In fact, under our monitoring mechanism and the monitoring work we have undertaken would not just rely on the information furnished by the MTRCL, and we would just take their word for it. For example, on the work's progress, we would not just rely on their report and just take their word. In fact, as I said at the last hearing, and I've also stated that in my statement, we had 3 layers of monitoring, and even in the latest paper, we have also mentioned that there are a number of things that we have done. So we have multiple layers of meetings, and we asked the MTRCL to furnish more data and also the latest updated information. And together with the M&V consultant, we would also conduct site visits and inspection. So we went down to the site to monitor the progress of the works. And we also compared that with the report submitted to us. Thirdly, we also asked the M&V consultant to look at many different documents. So we asked the MTRCL to provide different documents, and then the M&V consultant would scrutinize those papers to determine if the works were in line with what they are supposed to do. So through such different initiatives, we try to understand the actual progress and the situation with regard to delays. So it's not that we just trusted the report of the MTRCL. Thank you. Second question, was there a question of the government trying to benefit its own? I don't quite understand that. What do you mean? Chairman, within the government, we have, well, let me put it this way. So, by the government benefiting the government, so is Ms. Mo referring to the government and the MTRCL? Or are you saying that, well, between the government and the MTRCL, you're trying to benefit each other? So there is a conflict in role because the biggest shareholder of the MTRCL is the Hong Kong government. So between the MTRCL and the government, so you're benefiting each other. Well, as I said, we did not fully trust the MTRCL, and also as the shareholder of the MTRCL, as I'm not the shareholder, that's why I'm not in a position to comment on that. Thank you. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Lau again? Did you talk to Mr. Anthony Cheung, the Secretary for Transport and Housing? Because I'm just repeating this question, and as a result, in attending the meeting held on the 24th of May last year, so that was the Railway Subcommittee meeting. So in attending that meeting, Mr. Cheung still insisted that the XRL Hong Kong section can be completed on schedule by August 2015. Mr. Lau, in fact, I already provided the information last time. Well, back in middle 2013, the Highways Department was clearly aware of the fact that there was slippage and delay in the progress. And in middle of 2013, we already pointed out that, well, there was just 2 years to go before the scheduled completion date in 2015, and many things can happen in between. I think he's avoiding the question. I don't mean to be offensive, but just now you said that in the middle of 2013, but then I was referring to the meeting held on the 24th of May 2013. As a result of what you said, the Bureau Director insisted that everything was okay and everything can be completed in 2015. So did you provide professional advice so that the Bureau Director would not be releasing information that, looking back, is untrue information? So she's focusing on the meeting held on the 24th of May 2013. So before the Bureau Director came to the meeting on that day, did you give any professional advice to him? Well, Chairman, I'll have to look at the overall situation before I can be more specific about what she just asked. Well, with regard to the overall situation, and that is in the middle of 2013, it was already a long time, and indeed, we were already pressing the MTRCL to implement the RMs to catch up with the program. At the same time, we were urging the MTRCL to come up with a revised completion schedule, and the MTRCL was quite certain that it was able to complete the works on schedule. But then we did not trust it. That's why in 2013, we were asking for the MTRCL to come up with a revised work schedule in order to ascertain that well, by saying that they would be able to complete the works on schedule, it was achievable. But then in May, in fact, on the 24th of May 2013, is a very different time frame. It's a very short time frame. So we were still waiting for the MTRCL to come up with something. On the one hand, there was no evidence to show that the MTRCL would not be able to complete it on time. And still, there was quite a long time to go. And still, there was a chance for it to catch up. And that's why, at the time, we were not able to ascertain that MTRCL would definitely not be able to complete the works on time. And in fact, I've already provided the information to the Bureau Director, and that is in relation to the use of funds, because at the time, the media were already reporting that the MTRCL would have a cost overrun. In fact, looking at the circumstances, in terms of the contingency fund, it was still in a very healthy state. That's why the Bureau Director did not look at the issue of cost overrun, so he did not say that definitely there would be cost overrun. Thank you. I'd also like to follow up on this. At a particular point in time, the M&V consultant told you that, as I said just now, the consultant was expecting an 11-month delay. Yes, I'm not an engineer, but then I do have friends who are engineers. So according to your professional view, Mr. Lau, at one stage, if there was this expectation that there would be an 11-month delay, all right, even if there is 2 more years to go, but then I suspect that you didn't have that much time, so you will have to catch up with the 11-month delay. Technically, in your professional opinion, do you think that is achievable, or is it a realistic view? Chairman, I think there are 2 points here. First, according to our experience, there were some cases of serious delays in which they were able to catch up and complete on time. So an example or a case in point is the Shenzhen Bay Bridge. So some 70% had passed, and in terms of the funds used, they only managed to use up to about 50%. But then in the end, the contractor adopted some DRMs, and as a result, they managed to complete the works on schedule. So that's point number 1. And point number 2, as far as this project is concerned, in your professional opinion, with an estimated 11 months delay, do you think that they would still be able to complete it on schedule? So what's your view? What's your view at the time? Chairman, concerning the 11 months delay, well, that was comparing with the initial completion schedule. So according to the original estimate, the project should be completed in August 2015. Because of the slippage, and as I said, the MTRCL was coming up with a revised work schedule. But then in the middle of it, so before they were able to complete the revised work schedule, they already came up with some revised timelines. And if I may suggest that our members refer to a particular paper. That's in 2014 May. The administration provided a paper on the MTRCL's XRL delay. Which paper are you referring to? It was provided to this council, to the Railway Subcommittee, the RSC. In that paper, there was also a report. And the Highways Department, because of the request by the Bureau Director, we conducted an independent assessment to find out the reasons for the delay. And we also provided this information provided by the M&V consultant in February or March. It was a report from the M&V consultant. For example, like the WKT contract 810A, according to the work schedule, there was an 86 weeks delay, but then according to the revised schedule, the delay would just be 15.6 weeks. 15.6 weeks. So it shows that the MTRCL and its contractors have been looking at the overall plan, and they were revising the work schedule. In other words, if we just looked at the initial plan, the situation might be somewhat worse. But then if they were able to come up with a revised schedule, and if they were able to implement it, then as I said, the delay would just be 10 plus weeks. But then in many projects, they were sequential. In other words, as you said, so they were intertwined. So one project after another project, and if there is a delay to a particular project, it would also affect the subsequent projects.
So the subsequent projects may only commence after the previous projects have been completed, right? So that's the case indeed, Chairman. But for the DRMs, they are for projects which needed to be completed earlier. For example, the structure for the West Kowloon Terminal Station, that has to be completed early. Now, if certain rooms in the station can be completed as soon as possible, then the E&M works can start immediately after that, and that can help recover the delays. So the DRMs are about that. I'm sorry, second round, please, Claudimo. Mr. Chen Kam Lam. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to continue following up on Mr. Lau's role in the PSC and how you discharge your duties. You are a major leader in the PSC. I would like to know, in every PSC meeting, you would be hearing the reports from your technical team, the chief engineer, and also the M&V consultant. Apart from reading the documents and hearing their reports, have you done anything else to ensure that when you discharge your duties, you are doing it properly and that there is no dereliction of duty on your part? Apart from the PSC meeting at the Highways Department, we also held some internal meetings. Once every 2 weeks, I would meet with colleagues from the Railway Development Office, RDO, to understand the progress of various projects and works. And I asked questions. So I just didn't rely solely on the PSC as a source of information. Outside the PSC, I was also doing work, trying to ascertain the overall situation, the problems encountered, what coordination work that needed to be undertaken, how we should go about in monitoring MTRCL, etc. You hold meetings once every 2 weeks. You are there just to hear the reports. I believe you did not have first-hand information. You were getting information indirectly. And once you've got the information, then you would make instructions directing them how to take the work forward. In your supplementary remarks, I raised you responded to my question, and my question was that you have no power as to whether the MTRCL would do their work properly. Did you have the feeling that even though you've tried your utmost to monitor the works, the monitoring work didn't work effectively? Did you have that kind of feeling? First, I would like to clarify. Mr. Chen mentioned that we don't have a contract with the MTRCL. That's not the case. We did have an entrustment agreement with the MTRCL, under which the MTRCL must fulfill its responsibilities therein. We made certain suggestions to the MTRCL. Sometimes they may not respond immediately. There might be two reasons. First, it might take time for them to do the work. And secondly, they might not be very committed in doing the following work. But we didn't stop there. In our meetings, we would continue to urge them to do jobs properly. If what they did not satisfy us, we would continue to call for further action. And we would stop this appeal to them unless something which satisfied us had been done. The director, in his statement, said that apart from the monthly PSC meetings, the Highways Department would go down to the sites to do inspections. Director, did you actually participate in these on-site visits? And if yes, have you identified the delays mentioned in the report? Have you made any instructions to remedy the situation? Thank you. I did go on-site visits. But through these visits, it's not easy to get an overall picture of the works. We had to look at several aspects. We had to look at the progress reports. We had to also study the M&V consultants' comments. Apart from my personal on-site visits, the M&V consultant would take monthly photos of the work sites to help us better understand the situation at the work sites. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning the M&V consultant, I would like to know that because they were adopting this risk-based sampling approach, looking at sites with higher risks. So in the whole process, do you think this is an appropriate approach? Because very often, when there were delays, the delays didn't stem from one single reason. They may be caused by a multitude of factors. If you did it by a random sampling approach, you might only get part of the picture and not the entire picture. So in the whole process of monitoring, did you find that this approach was problematic? Chairman, thank you. As stated in my statement, we had a good grasp of the delays of the XRL project. Based on the M&V consultants' information on the site visits and also MTRCL's documents, we knew that the actual delays were more or less the same as what was stated in the reports. So we didn't see that MTRCL was withholding information from us. In my statement, paragraph 36, in November 2013, they found that they had problems with completing the project on time, but they didn't share that piece of information with us. Well, was it contained in an internal assessment report? Yes. In the director's supplementary remarks today, in paragraph 4, it is stated that even though the M&V consultant didn't identify any irregularity within the internal systems of the MTRCL, it doesn't mean that there is no problem with that system. So I would like to know, did the M&V consultant know the operation of MTRCL's internal systems? If they didn't know anything about the system, then it's very likely that you would accept whatever information that is provided by the MTRCL to you, and you would not be able to detect what information was missing, and you would not be in a position to ask for important pieces of information to facilitate your monitoring work. So, Director, do you know whether the M&V consultant knew anything about the internal systems of the MTRCL? Mr. Lau. The statement sets out that the MTRCL has an internal management system, and in our EA, we asked that the MTRCL monitor the product based on their established mechanism. We did obtain the documents on their internal systems, and the document was passed on to our M&V consultant. So both we and the M&V consultants were well aware of the management systems of the MTRCL, and we could check on the documents and verify the practices were in line with the documents. Mr. Lau said in his statement that it doesn't mean that there is no problem with the internal systems of the MTRCL. That means that you might think that they do have some problems in their internal system. So what are these problems, Mr. Lau? As I said in the last meeting, the IEP did say that the MTRCL internal systems may not be very sound. There are problems with it. This is the opinion of the IEP. I don't think I'm in position to say anything more, because in the document we said that we are studying the MTRCL's responsibilities in accordance with the entrustment arrangements. And if needed, then we might make claims against the MTRCL. So if I express my views now, then the government may be put in a disadvantaged position. We want to take further action against the MTRCL in the future. Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to follow up on some questions raised in the last meeting. In your statement, paper number W1(C) in paragraph 21, you said that where necessary, the Director of Highway also reports to STH any significant issues relating to the implementation of the XRLL. On the hearing on the 24th of March, I asked Mr. Lau the definition of significant issues. And also, in the past, how many times have you reported to the STH on significant issues? And at that time, Mr. Lau's response was that the significant issues are to be defined by Mr. Lau himself. From 2010 to April 2014, only 2 significant issues were reported to the Bureau Director. And I also asked Mr. Lau whether he could provide further information on significant issues. And according to the documents furnished by Mr. Lau on the 10th of April, paper number G7, I noticed that in paragraph B, well, that this is somewhat different from the written statement, because in paragraph 21 you mentioned about significant issues, but here you said that in significant topics. So, Mr. Lau, can you clarify how come that there is a difference or change in the wordings? What is your understanding of significant issues or significant subjects? And would the follow-up actions differ because of the change in the wordings? Is it that the case that you want to lessen your responsibility by changing the wordings here? Mr. Lau. Chairman, I would like to make a clarification. Issues and subjects or topics. G7.
We do have regular meetings monthly with the THB, and on issues raised, well, we would be reporting on the issues to the Bureau. So It's not that we would just be reporting on 2 issues to the THB. Well, I'm referring to significant issues. Yes, of course, there are many issues, and of course, Director, you are the head of the department. I don't think that you would be reporting to the Bureau Director on each and every thing that you come across. So, on what basis would you be reporting to the Bureau Director? Well, Chairman, at such regular meetings, for the overall situation of the XRL, we will have to report to the Bureau Director, and of course that would also involve important or significant issues. For the, well, I can give you some examples. On several occasions, outside of the regular meetings, we specifically arrange for the MTLCL to give a briefing to the Bureau, so that the Bureau would have a clearer idea as to what the problem was. So such practices would be necessary because in the course of our reporting, we might not be able to give all the details about a particular issue. And after pointing out that there was an issue or problem, we would arrange for the MTLCL to give a thematic briefing, so that for all the related issues, they can be explained to the Bureau, so that the Bureau would understand the matter better. Well, can I just pause? Well, listening to what you said just now, apparently your understanding of significant issues and significant subjects, they are very much the same. So is my understanding correct? Is that also what you understand it to be? Yes, correct. Please continue. Thank you, Chairman. In other words, can I understand it this way? Well, the Director is of the view that everything is important. That's why, well, during your regular briefing to the Bureau Director, you would present the overall situation. That's why by the 12th and 13th of April, the MTRCL's CEO and Chairman separately called the Bureau Director, saying that it's not possible to commission service in August 2015, and would you treat it as a significant issue? That's why over the past few years, in the course of monitoring the XRL project, you as the overall person in charge in the Highways Department, so for such significant issues or subjects, would you say that they are actually not important? Director, I don't quite understand the question of Mr. Chair. Can you repeat that again? Because you said that all subjects are important or significant. That's why, in fact, every time at the meetings, as the agenda would involve the Bureau Director or Bureau representatives attending the meeting, that's why in the past you actually did not bring up anything that you believe to be very significant, and therefore you did not report those issues to the Bureau Director, right? Chairman, first of all, I did not say that I believe that all the subjects were significant issues. I never said that. Well, let me clarify. I'd like to point out that we do report on a regular basis to the Bureau, and in the course of such reporting, we would also bring up significant issues. For example, it's not just about the general progress. We would also point out that there were certain issues which the Bureau would have to understand. So it's not that I think that all the subjects or issues were significant, but then in the course of our reporting, we would already have reported that other than the general progress, we would also be reporting to the Bureau certain significant issues. Chairman, can I ask that Mr. Lau, well, I think I also made this request last time, so with regard to the significant issues, can he provide a paper on the significant issues that he referred to? Mr. Lau, Chairman, at our monthly meeting with the THB, we would provide a paper to the THB, and I understand that the Select Committee has also requested that the Bureau provides such papers to the Select Committee, and according to my understanding, there are some opinions being considered. I believe that the Select Committee will be taking this up with the Bureau concerning the provision of papers. Chairman, I'd like to clarify this because I'm focusing on the term significant issues, as the Director said. So it's not just significant issues. Actually, they are significant subjects. So it's for the Director to provide. Is it that for this is it that you have difficulty in providing this primary document? Well, this is an internal document to the Bureau, and as far as I understand it, the THB has yet to accede to providing such internal documents to the Select Committee. So I believe that it's more appropriate to leave it to the Select Committee to take it up with the Bureau instead of me making such disclosure. Well, can I stop the clock for the time being? All right. In the paper that you provide to the Bureau Director on reports of significant issues, have you included this? So in your report, you should know it. So it's you who made the report. Well, in the report, definitely, we would cover our views about the MTRCL and on certain information about the contractual completion date. So on the significant issues, I'm not talking about the regular reports. So when you reported on the significant issues, did it include commercial secrets? Well, that depends. Well, on significant issues, well, in our regular reports, there are two examples. Well, the XRL's cross-boundary tunnel, well, there was a delay, and we did report it to the Bureau. We also arranged for a thematic meeting so that all the facts would be put on the table for the information of the Bureau. So that's included in one of the regular papers that we submitted to the Bureau on significant issues. So that was one of the examples. But then would you be going into the detail about the claims made by the contractors or potential claims? So you would not be including those details in the report to the Bureau Director. Is that right? On the cross-boundary tunnel, it also involved some contractors' problems. I believe that you would all recall that the progress experienced some delays. So what were the reasons? Please continue. Thank you, Chairman. Also, I'd like to ask Mr. Lau, at the last hearing, you mentioned that in the process of the monitoring, the M&V consultant did raise a number of queries about the progress, whether or not they would be able to catch up with the lost time, and whether or not the DRMs were effective, and so on. In this respect, the administration wrote to the MTRCL to ask for a response, and if the M&V consultant was not happy with the response by the MTRCL, then the administration would keep those matters in the list of concerns. And last time at the hearing, we did ask Mr. Lau to provide the relevant information, including Mr. Lau. You referred to this list of concerns. So, Mr. Lau, can you clarify? So, when you refer to the list of concerns, so is it paper number G7, item C, that's about the list on list of projects? No, Chairman. Then can you supplement that list of concerns? Can you furnish that to us? Chairman, we will have to look into it because for the time being, we are of the view that for the list of concerns, it involves different contracts of the MTRCL, and would that include sensitive or confidential information? We will have to look into that carefully. For the time being, my view is that it's not appropriate for us to discuss those in detail and in public. All right, you're not able to provide the list of concerns, but then once you have included an item in the list of concerns. Generally speaking, how would you follow up on that particular item? Chairman? Well, at the meeting, we would look at the list of concerns and we would urge the MTRCL to do what it should be doing. In fact, earlier on, we also mentioned that before they are able to come up with a satisfactory reply, we will have to include that item in the list of concerns, and then we will continue to follow up on the issue until such time when they're able to come up with a satisfactory reply. So that's the way we follow up on the issues. So, Chairman, can I understand it to be that whether it's the department or the director, you would just be sitting back to wait for the reply? Is that right? Chairman, as I said just now, on the one hand, we make use of the monitoring mechanism to understand the overall situation, and if there is a need for us if there is a need for DRMs to be put in place, then we would urge the MTRCL to do that. In fact, if they are not able to do it, then we would not just be sitting back and doing nothing. In fact, back in 2013, when we were of the view that there were a big question mark about the progress, that's why we urged them to come up with a revised work schedule so that we can be sure that when they said that they would be able to complete the works on schedule, then there would be justification to support their conclusion. Well, Chairman, I'd like to put this to Mr. Lau again. All right, in terms of the progress of works, if there are problems, then the M&V consultant or the department, so if the two of you have different views, then Mr. Lau, as the head of this technical department, would you give your personal or the department's professional assessment to the Bureau, apart from writing to the MTRCL asking for a response? Would Mr. Lau or your department take positive measures to proactively find out the reasons for the delay and also the related issues? Chairman, can I ask Mr. Chair to repeat the first part of his question, because so you talk about the differences. What does that mean? Well, in terms of the work's progress and also in terms of other projects, if you and the M&V department or the M&V consultant held different views, what would you do? Well, in terms of the work's progress, in fact, the M&V consultant, in the course of his work, has observed something, and he has come up with a report. And in the report of the M&V consultant and the report by the MTRCL, in fact, there was no major difference. So basically, they were the same. So there was no question of them having different views. What about other issues? What do you mean? For example, on the DRMs, you also had different views. Mr. Lau? Mr. Chair, where did you see that we held different views? It's about the DRMs, because you did not hold any specific views, because with regard to the department, the M&V consultant and the MTRCL on the works delay and also the DRMs, so you held similar views with both parties, right? Well, as I said, in terms of the progress, well, they reported basically more or less the same thing, so there was not much difference between their reports. In terms of the DRMs, in coming up with the DRMs, the M&V consultant did come up with some comments, and we also gave our views. But then when the DRMs were implemented, in fact, in terms of the effectiveness of the DRMs, they would then become part of the project. So in monitoring the effectiveness of the DRMs, they would be done in tandem with other works. So that would form part of the monitoring work in monitoring the progress.
Then we will look at whether there are any actual delay situation. So I didn't quite get what Mr. Chair was driving at. Well, I think it will be up to you to take what my question meant. Your reply seemed to be saying that the administration, the consultant, and the MTRCL, with respect to the work's progress and also the DRMs, do not hold different views. So that's my understanding from your reply. I would like to clarify, Chairman. Well, we cannot say that we don't have different opinions. As said, MTRCL was responsible for coming up with the DRMs, and the DRM proposals were then passed on to the Highways Department and the M&V consultant for our views. And if we gave them our views, then that means then the proposals will be somehow different from the initial proposals, or else we won't be giving them our opinion. So there might be some differences there. After we have, or the M&V consultant have raised our views, well, actually, the MTRC would accept most of our suggestions. And if they found that our suggestions are not acceptable or not appropriate, then we will have discussions and to try to come up with the best option. There may be cases where our views did differ, but then if that happened, we would do some study and then revise the proposals as necessary. In May 2013, Mr. Lau said that there may be delays, but then it's still some time before the scheduled commissioning date. So he thought it was not impossible to recover the delays. So my question for the director is that up till when did you think that the slippage could not be recovered and that the commissioning date had to be postponed? And when did you report this view to the SCH? Chairman. With regard to work's progress, well, perhaps I would start from an earlier time in the schedule. In 2013, early 2013, we did see that there were serious delays. And at that time, we did suspect whether the delays or slippage could be recovered. If you look at the paper we furnished earlier on, and that has to do with the things or subjects discussed at the PSC. In January 2013, we already urged the MTRCL to come up with a revised master program. Can you answer directly the Vice Chairman's question? His question was, when did you know that you won't be able to recover the slip page? And when did you report that to the Secretary? Until the time when the MTRCL made the announcement, would we be sure that the slippage could not be recovered? So does it mean that you and the Secretary knew at the same time that piece of information? That is after the MTRCL had made the announcement. Yes, the Secretary and I understood the slip page, the situation at the same time. I will take a 10 minutes break and then I'll read out the names of members. Mr. Michael Tian, Mr. Lee Yan, Mr. Charles Mock, and Ms. Claudia Mo will be raising questions for a second round. All right. You understand that I would like to pose a question. First round, Mr. Wu Chi-White for this meeting. We'll come back at 11 a.m. sharp.